Okay, and our next guest, it looks like, is here on the line, and that is Dorothy Robey. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi.
Am I saying your last name right? Is it Robey?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I just wanted to make
a lot of people don't get it.
Well, I'm so glad you called in, and you and I, we've known each other, I think now about 12 years. I met you in a different social media site other than Facebook, and then we all moved to Facebook, so I'm just so honored to be your friend, and I'm just amazed by your talent. Yeah. Well, I understand that you wrote your first short story at the age of 12 on your father's electric typewriter. And what inspired you to do that? Tell us about that.
I had a big imagination, and I just liked to write stories, which was kind of ironic because I didn't like to read.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't make too much sense, but for some reason I did like to, and I think probably I got it from watching TV.
Well, now, is this when you knew that you wanted to be a writer?
I think I've always had that dream and that passion to do that. It's just when you graduate from high school, reality kind of comes into play, and so you have to look for something at that point in time as something that could support you. So at that time, you couldn't really, it was a different time in the early 90s than it is now on how to get anything published, I mean, I know you know this. So it was much more difficult then, and so I went with my parents' advice, of course, saying, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't live on that. So I went to business college, and but I still wrote in my early 20s to my mid-20s. So it wasn't like I totally gave it up, but it was more like a side hobby.
Well, I understand in your teenage years, too, that you wrote several stories, including a trilogy of a family set in the Civil War era.
Yes.
How did that come about?
That was sparked by, I don't know if you know the author John Jakes, but he did several books on kind of historical novels about North and South, which was his big one, and then that was a trilogy. And so I saw the miniseries on TV, and then I decided I wanted to read the book after that. So that's finally I went backwards on that, but that worked. And so I got inspired by his writing and because he has another set called Kent Family Chronicles, which is an 8-book set of a family saga that goes through pretty much pre-Revolutionary War all the way to the turn of the century in the 1900s. So it's full. I've actually got most of my history through him at that time because I was not really into school in high school. Did not care for it too much then.
Yeah. Well, I understand that when you got married to your husband, Troy, and then you had your 2 sons, that you did finally pick up the writing again. It wasn't until September of 2014. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. It was a long, dry spell, I guess you could call it. I don't know if I would call that, I learned that writer's block is basically just distractions. And my family wasn't a distraction because obviously it was what I wanted. And so, and when I had children, I had no plans to work. So, which worked out well considering my second son needed me around with his special needs. So I think it came about when they were in the teens, and so I think it was the right time to pick it back up and kind of pick up where I left off with this always with me, but not, kind of in the back of my mind. But I thought, well, I should just go back to school, which was really well worth it. I mean, that whole 4 years was a total learning experience, and it just helped me grow as a writer, but also as a person. And so I really appreciated Southern New Hampshire University's courses, and it really helped me. And I also am part of a writing critique group, and that's really made a difference too, and how to hone your skills in writing.
Right. And you graduated in 2019 with a degree in English and creative writing. I mean, that's amazing. That's great. Now, I understand that your genre of writing is varied. You have written 2 children's short stories, an inspirational novel, a humorous nature environmental short story, a mainstream short story, and 2 lighthearted plays. Now, I know one of the plays you wrote is titled Falling Upstairs, and that was filmed on video and is available on YouTube. At your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It's really funny and fun to watch, and I did want to let everyone know that your YouTube channel is .r, D-O-T, and then the letter R. And that way they can have the pleasure of watching it, because it is funny and it is great. What are you currently working on now?
So I just finished up a blurb for my novel, Passage of Promise. That's the one that I've worked on since 2015. I'm putting this novel through to my editor for a second full run through. August 26th, I send it over to her. And so I'm getting really close to finishing that and starting to set up my query letter and go from there on that one. And then I have a novella that I had revised several months back, and I'm waiting to go through the critique process with that again, so it's going to be a little bit for that. And right now I have a work in progress. So my novella is called Morning Dove, and then I have a work in progress called What She Didn't Know. All of my stories have a tinge of my faith in it, so there's always going to be a piece of that in everything I write. The only time I've had an exception in that is on some short stories. So, there's just kind of a quick writing without that. But if it's a novel or the novella, I always have something of my faith in there for inspiration. And I like to write about hope and redemption, so redeemable people and characters. And so most of my stuff is kind of Christian women's fiction, mainstream, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so your novella, that's what that's about, basically. Is there any certain story that you might want to share with us about what it's going to be about?
About the novella or the...
Oh, the novella. Yeah. Oh, the novel. That's what I meant to say, yeah, the novel.
Yeah, well, the novel Passage of Promise, that's... I've worked on that, like I said, since 2015. So at the beginning of 2015, I pretty much almost finished, but I don't think I finished till 2016. The first draft. It took a long time. It took a long time.
Right.
But I basically have a little blurb on it I can read you because I just updated it.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, and blurbs are very hard to, as you know, are hard to write because you have to say your whole story in a few paragraphs and not give too much away. So this is what I have for my novel Passage of Promise. Marina loves babysitting her 4-year-old nephew, Christopher, but when her family gets the shattering news of her nephew's life-threatening illness, their lives are forever changed. Marina's family sends her to the Greek island of Santorini to retrieve her great-grandmother's wonder-working icon of Saints Anna and Mary for healing Christopher. But Marina discovers the icon has been stolen. She recruits a high school English teacher vacationing on the island to help her search for her great-grandmother's precious heirloom. During the search, she finds something more than the icon. Returning home, Marina must face her fears of Christopher's serious health condition and her family's fractured bonds. Will she gain the courage and faith through St. Anna's guidance to bring about healing within her family and a true love that lasts?
Oh, wow. That sounds really interesting. I can't wait to get a copy. Yeah. Thank you for reading that. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, what really interests you the most about writing? Do you have?
Oh my! I like when ideas come to my head and bother me so much that I have to write them down. The characters become so real that their dialogue is in your head, and you feel like, okay, I have to write this down. And also when you're in the writing process, in the middle of a scene, and I mean, I've been told, sometimes you write scenes that are almost like a play or a movie, because I'm a visual person. So, I'm always like that. But I like being in the scene with my characters. I like to see how people react to different characters in my story. If I'm able to portray them the way I want them to be, and the readers actually see that, that's always important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me ask you, do you have any advice for an aspiring writer?
I actually would say a few things. I would say it's worth, if you don't go to college, it is worth taking writing workshop classes to help you understand the structure, what plot is, what character arc is, how to go about actually putting together a story, and it would be helpful to have those classes. But I don't think that you have to be perfect when you start out. It's always a learning process, and even the top writers are constantly, getting better. So it's always something you progress at. So I would say don't give up on it, and keep at it and learn from it, and especially join a critique group where you can find people that you can connect with that understand what you're looking for, and you understand what they're looking for, and then when they read, they really help you to see any plot holes, any character flaws that you didn't fix when you're going through it, because the way you look at it is going to be different with one set of eyes. You need more than that, and most of all, if you're going to put out any if you are going to self-publish in any way, always get a professional editor, because you need somebody to look over that professionally, so that when you put it out, people will notice that it's a stellar, it's professional, it's clean, and people don't want to read something obviously that's cluttered with kind of typos and all that problem in there, and yeah.
Yeah, it takes away from the story when you see something like that. You have to pause and say,
right. It takes you out of the story. Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, now, where can someone find your work? I know that you have a blog. Do you publish some of your stuff on your blog, or do you have another? I know you have your Facebook author page too on Facebook. So where can someone find your work?
Okay, well, right now, the only thing I have published out is the short story I did in a contest back in 2017. And so my short story, along with 11 other people, is in an anthology from Scribes Valley Publishing. And that was an early on piece I did in 2015. But it's it's on Amazon. I think it's called Take a Road Trip. It's been a while since I looked at it.
Oh, okay. So
and then I know anthologies are not great. Not everybody wants to read anthologies because it's a mixture of others, and so But
right.
What I'm planning is when I get out my first novel, then of course I'll make an announcement in my blog and on my Facebook page and my Twitter page and all of the social media I'm linked to, and then at that point, if people will know exactly when it's released.
Right. Okay.
And hopefully I'll get some interested readers.
Oh, you will. I'm definitely sure you will, because it sounds like it's a great novel. Hey, I just wanted to give everyone the link to your blog, and that is .lovestowrite.com. I just want to spell that out. That's DOTLUVS, the number 2, WRITE.com. So that way they can follow you and know about, like you said, when your novel's coming out. And so it's just, I just wanted to say thank you so much, for being part of the show and for calling in. I know that, you are busy, and so I appreciate your time. And I hope that you can call back and be a part of the show in the future, to catch up on your career and your writing, if that would be something you'd be able to do.
Well, I really appreciate you asking me to be on your show, John. It was very kind of you and allowing me to go on about my writing and inviting me. Yeah, inviting me and also for future shows. I really appreciate that. It's a real joy for me. So
thank you. It's been a joy for me too.